The latest beyond obnoxious card for the Zoxnoxious synthesizer is the Pole Dancer, an analog pole mixing filter. I'll show how this filter crossfades filter modes and morphs personalities. I'll give technical detail on pole mixing and how the filter works. In this video, I'll explain the details on how the Pole Dancer keeps it real. The Pole Dancer joins the Z3340 VCO, the Z3372 signal processor, and the Z5524 dual VCO synth voice. Like the other voice cards, the Pole Dancer has a front-end module VCV Rack and an analog audio path. All these cards plug into a common backplate which is controlled by a Raspberry Pi. One pretty easy thing to do with this filter is set up a crossfade between filter modes. Using VCV Rack modules, you can crossfade manually or set up controllers for the fade. Let's tear this down and start from scratch. So what's it got for features?
It's got a cop motor, a 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks.
Thanks, Elwood, but not quite. Two source signals are selected from the Zoxnoxious signal bus. For inputs, I'm using the two 3340 oscillators shown. Here's the first oscillator. And here's the second oscillator. Either or both sources can be put through the filter or used for filter modulation. Resonance compensation. As resonance increases, the mode affects how much low end comes through. Uncompensated brings out the resonance, kind of sequential style. Bandpass is a bit more roll-in style, where the low end isn't lost. Then there's two other modes, Alt Mode 1 and Alt Mode 2, which have slightly different effects. There's this pole mixing input. Unconnected, the Pole Dancer is a 4-pole low-pass filter. If you want a different Pole Dancer, you need to give it a different personality. In patching a personality to the Pole Dancer, take note that the patch cable carries 5 signals. These signals are the channel levels for the pole mixer. No audio is going through VCV Rack at all. It's purely control voltages for the mixing levels. With all due respect to Jezebel, think of the personality as a mixing disk. By tweaking the mix levels, you can get various filter modes and characteristics. You can do this manually, but what a pain. So there's a number of presets, and with that, Jezebel changes to a 3-pole high-pass filter. pole dancer can take on a bandpass personality. This may seem odd at first, that the filter module itself doesn't specify the filter type. Stick with me here, the method to my madness will soon become clear. There's a lot of options and I'm not going to demo them all. No, wait, I lied, I will. Here's a sequence of 40 different personalities. I did this by patching the personality module to a series of switches. Then go to a final switch, then to the pole dancer filter itself. And really my point here is not to demo all the modes, but to show the filter mode can be sequenced by pulling in other VCV Rack modules. The filter and the filter mode are decoupled. And here's another way to sequence the personality filter modes. We've seen patching the personality to a switch, giving an instant jump from one mode to another. Using a slew limiter smooths the transition. For further tweaking, try splitting the mix levels out and only slew limiting one of the pole levels. Everything jumps instantly except for the slew limited pole. Let's see what Vince McMahon thinks. We've seen a really good filter. It can take many filter modes. There's morphing between filter modes. Hey Vince, what do you think about audio rate filter switching? I typically demo with the audio dry, no effects. But is there anything you'd like to hear with a bit of reverb?
One ping only, please. One ping only. One ping only.
I keep mentioning pole mixing and maybe you're not familiar with that. Let's start with a 4-pole filter. In this case it's the Sound Semiconductor 2140, a very good filter in itself. In a typical design, one would take the output at the end of the 4-pole filter. This gives a 4-pole low-pass response. And this is what the pole dancer provides with its second output. That's not pole mixing though. Instead, a pole mixing filter adds a mixer at each pole output. So what does that do? It allows you to set and mix the various pole amounts. By setting the mixer to specific values, various filter modes can be achieved. And this is what the pole dancer's first output provides, a mix of the filter poles. A good way to visualize this is this page on the Expedition Electronics website. You can play around to see how to set up various filter modes and set up a pole dancer personality for that mode. Let's try one out. I'm going to pick something a bit weird, this double notch filter. the notches are 1 octave above and 1 octave below the filter cutoff. From this double notch, check out varying the dry amount contribution. Reducing it, and the notch disappears. A bit further down, and it's nearly a notch at the cutoff frequency instead. Take the dry mix all the way down, and where we originally had notches, now we have unity gain. I'll set up a morphing between all these modes. I've copied the ratio of the levels to the personality module to start with. I'm not going to patch the personality straight to the pole dancer. Instead, I'll modulate the dry amount first. Split the mixer signals apart, then add in the modulation. The other 4 mixing levels should just go straight to the merge. Then patch the merge to the pole dancer mixer input. This should give a response similar to what we're seeing on the Expedition Electronics website. The audio that's been playing along has been this filter with some additional modulation, so now you've heard a bit of what this filter can sound like. I don't think it's quite enough to show that double notch filter without seeing if the theory matches what we heard. For this, I turn to the highly scientific Zoxnoxious engineering lab equipment. I'll sweep a sine wave from this Z3372 resonant filter and use my ultra-precise oscilloscope for test. The yellow or top trace shows the filter input. The blue or bottom trace is the filter output. The filter cutoff is set to 220 Hz, or 3 volts in the Zoxnoxious synth. We should expect notches at 110 Hz and 440 Hz, 1 octave above and 1 octave below the cutoff. And we see just that, attenuation at 110 Hz, the signal comes back at 220 Hz, and attenuation again at 440 Hz. That's somewhere around 20 decibels of attenuation, which is enough for effect. When the dry level mix is brought down by around half, we should see a single notch at the cutoff frequency. No, I know it's not perfect, but we do see significant attenuation at the cutoff of 220 Hz. Then last, with the, no, it's not a bandpass type filter, we should expect 2 peaks at the octaves above and below the cutoff, with a dip at the cutoff frequency. And that's what happens here as well. To wrap things up, you've heard a beyond obnoxious analog filter, and you've seen how the pole dancer can take on many filter modes with its personalities. With the pole dancer keeping things real, the only boundary is your imagination. Thanks for watching. Next up for me is reworking the backplane's form factor.